Joan Didion explains her motivation for writing in Let Me Tell You What I Mean, her most recent collection of essays, by stating, "I write entirely to find out what I'm thinking, what I'm looking at, what I see, and what it means, what I want and what I fear. Had I known the answer to any of these questions, I would never have needed to write a novel." Writing is how we answer these questions for ourselves and how we communicate our discoveries to our communities. Welcome to this community chat about writing and the McDowell Writing Program at Greenhills School. My name is Becky Randolph, and I am the director of the McDowell Writing Program. The program was established by a generous endowment from a Greenhills family in 1993 to honor the work of Mr. David T. McDowell, who served as headmaster of Greenhills from 1983 to 1993 and returned as interim head from 2017 to 2018, the school's 50th year. The McDowell Writing Program intends to develop, quote, the skill and art of writing, which are at the very heart of the education we offer here at Greenhills, as stated by its founders. Initially, the focus of the endowment was the writing contest, which allows students to submit work in both fiction and nonfiction categories. For this competition, students enter writing in contests for fiction, memoir, essay, poetry, journalism, and drama. And winners and honorable mentions are recognized in each category for grades 6, 7, 8, 9 through 12. Seniors may also participate in a separate additional competition, the Caroline F. Reed Award, for which they submit a varied portfolio. Student work is judged by professionals in each category who are outside of the Greenhills community. Each judge is carefully selected for their talent in their field and the expertise they bring to evaluating student writing. The judges are anonymous, and students provide their writing under a pen name, which ensures their anonymity. Students are recognized by the school and their peers in an evening performance event, the Arts and Humanities Night, which showcases their work. The prize for each award is a $100 gift card to a local bookstore. Recently, the McDowell Writing Program has been expanded in an effort to engage students throughout the academic community, and so now includes not only a writing contest, but also a variety of visiting writers, a writer in residence, and a writing camp scholarship. Writing is central to a Greenhills education, and the McDowell Writing Program is proud to be an important part of that mission. The McDowell Program aims to encourage all Greenhills students to pursue their unique interest in writing, and the Visiting Writers Program inspires many to imagine a career as a writer. Through the McDowell Writing Program, many talented authors have visited Greenhills over the years. They teach in classrooms, conduct workshops for students and teachers, and contribute to the community through readings and book chats. The Writer in Residence program brings an author to the building for several hours a week, all semester long. This writer is available to meet with students individually, visit classrooms, and consult with teachers. The McDowell Writing Program has sponsored the following slate of writers for the 2020-2021 academic year. Dr. Ruth Bahar, author of Lucky Broken Girl and soon-to-be-released Letters from Cuba. Mr. Patrick Flores Scott, author of American Road Trip and Jumped In. Mr. Jamal Buffer, program specialist at My Brother's Keeper and University of Michigan Musical Society teaching artist. Dr. Scott Ellsworth, author of Death in a Promised Land, The Tulsa Race Riot, as well as The World Beneath Our Feet and The Secret Game. And Greenhills alum, Professor Leah Plunkett, author of Sharenthood. You will hear briefly from each of these writers in the short clips to follow. Thank you so much for joining us today to hear about Greenhills School's focus on writing and the McDowell Writing Program. Writing is central to the Greenhills education because, in the words of Anne Lamott, writing and reading decrease our sense of isolation. They deepen and widen and expand our sense of life. They feed the soul. When writers make us shake our heads with the exactness of their prose and their truths, and even make us laugh about ourselves or life, our buoyancy is restored. Thank you again for joining us today.
My name is Jamal Buffer, hip-hop recording artist and project specialist for Washtenaw, My Brother's Keeper. Something that I wish I knew back in middle school or high school would be that I could make a living off of pursuing my art and pursuing my passion, which is rapping. Some advice that I would give to someone that's passionate about writing would be just stick with it. Keep doing what you're doing. Stay with it. Write as much as you can. I know it sounds cliche, but it's true. Practice does make perfect, so just stick with it. For someone that's not as passionate and doesn't enjoy writing as much, I would just say try writing in whatever form is best for you, whatever suits you. So if that's pen and pencil to paper, do that. Or if it's typing on a computer or on your phone, you should write that way. Or even voice memo, recording your voice on your phone is another way of writing. If we're talking about specifically writing on paper, then maybe schedule it. Put it on your calendar, maybe 2 or 3 times a week. You know, Tuesdays and Thursdays at 6 o'clock, you're going to write for 10 or 15 minutes. That way it doesn't build up and you don't procrastinate and it doesn't become an anxiety-filled type of thing. So, yeah, I would just say try to schedule it. Thankfully, I haven't really received too much bad advice, so I can't think of anything that's been a bad recommendation for me. But I would just say don't take advice from anyone telling you to do something if they haven't done that exact same thing themselves. Yeah, that would be my suggestion. And the book that's probably been the greatest influence on me is probably The Invisible Man by Ralph Ellison. The content is great. Just talking about being a black man in America. But more so than that, I think it was the first book that I read that was written by a black man. So that was, you know, at such a young age to know that a book like that was written by a black man was just super inspiring to me. So yeah, I would say The Invisible Man.
Hi, I'm Leah Plunkett. I'm Greenhills class of 1997, and I'm so excited to be thinking about words of wisdom for writers. I am not a fan of memoir, but a few years ago, a good friend gave me a memoir by the writer Dani Shapiro called Still Writing. And that book has words of wisdom that became a personal mantra for me as I was writing my first book. I'm paraphrasing, but Ms. Shapiro says that the art of writing is the process. It is not the output itself. And when I stopped to think about what went into process, I thought about habit. So what got me through writing my first book, and hopefully many more, is this idea that the art is the process and the process is the habit. So if you build habits of being an everyday writer, then eventually it all adds up to an output you can share with the world.
Hi, I'm Patrick Flores Scott, an author of a couple books, Jumped In and American Road Trip, and I've done some work as a writer in residence at Greenhills over the last couple years. Just meeting with writers, students, individually one-on-one, meeting with some classes and doing writing prompts with writing clubs, helping students with some in-class essays. Whatever it is that you need, I'll be here to help you out this second semester, including checking out McDowell entries, just an extra set of eyes for those. I'm always available for that. And just anyone that wants to talk about the craft of writing and writing careers, I'm here. Let me see, there are some questions that we were asked to focus on a little bit. What do you wish you knew as a middle school or high school student? I really struggled with reading, and I was too embarrassed to get help. And I wish I knew that the world would not have collapsed if I were to come out of the hiding and tell somebody that, hey, I kind of seem like a decent student, but the reality is I'm not reading anything, and I know this isn't going to work forever. And newsflash, it did not work forever. I started really struggling in college, and it affected my my path through college. What advice would I give to a student who's passionate about writing? I'd say to write a little bit every day and read a lot. I think reading and experiencing life, getting to know people, getting interested in a subject. I feel like writing itself, it's a subject, and it's a fascinating subject, but things that deal with history and people's relationships and psychology and science, like there are so many things to write about. So sometimes the focus is so much on writing that we forget to expand our world of understanding that writing will come out of. To a student who doesn't particularly enjoy writing, I would say it's just, I think sometimes we get stuck on ideas, and we end up saying that we don't like writing. And sometimes there's a lack of confidence about our own thought and our own ability to think and express ourselves. And I would say, don't worry about the writing part. Don't struggle with the writing part. It's about coming to terms with the fact that you, as a human being, have interesting things to say and meaningful things to say and things that the rest of us should hear. And if you put your focus there, the writing part's just going to come right along with it. I think the next one was about, what are bad recommendations you hear? The one thing, I don't think it's a bad recommendation, but there are a lot of students who feel like writing a book. And I think, well, that's cool. If you feel good about writing a book, go for it. But I also see students who feel like they're very young and they feel pressure to write. And I think sometimes writers give answers to the questions about what do I need to do to buckle down in my writing and forge this career when somebody's 16 or 17 or 18 or 15 years old. And I say, just keep it fun. Keep it easy, write something that entertains you, read a lot, and don't worry about product. Move on from one story to the next before it's finished. Just enjoy yourself. There's time to write a book in your life. Allow it to happen later after you've grown and after you've tested the writing waters in every which way. Again, if you feel like writing a big book or completing short stories, go for it. It's amazing. It's an amazing thing to do. But just don't put pressure on yourself. You can call yourself a writer now. If you're doing a journal entry every day, you're a writer. Don't put that extra pressure on yourself. What is a book or two that has greatly influenced your life? I was just thinking about this and thinking, wow, kind of the most mind-blowing thing I've ever read is, what is it? I have it here. The Discovery and Conquest of Mexico. I had to get it. This guy, Bernal Diaz, was in Cortez's very small group of soldiers from Spain, Basque missionaries or mercenaries, or there were missionaries as well in there. But this very small group basically took down the Aztec Empire in Mexico and set themselves up for taking over all of the Americas, basically Mexico and Central America and South America, and even even into the southwest, what would become the United States, and just this small group of people, and there's just so many times when they were just about to get slaughtered, and it's just this horrible set of circumstances that set up the end of all these just amazing cultures and cities, even, and set the path for this horrible colonialism that took place. And it was mind-blowing, because just history and storytelling, I mean, as a piece of fiction, this thing would have been unbelievable. And it sort of opened the path for fiction for me, and that you can write anything as long as you can sell it. The possibilities are all out there, because if this story is real, there are a million other things that seem crazy that could be real. As a writer, there's a couple little books, or one little book, Freak the Mighty by Rodman Philbrook, that I read to students as a middle school teacher, and I just felt like, wow, this book is really short and entertaining and funny and just so touching. And I don't think it's a big award winner or anything like that, but it was this moving book that made me feel like, well, I think I could do something like this maybe. And Patricia Polacco, who's from right here in Michigan, kind of at the same time I was getting into her books with some of my students. And these authors were authors that were sort of my entry into becoming a children's book author. So there's the answer to a few of my sort of introductory questions. Anyway, I'd love to get to meet you. I'd love to talk about writing with you and check out what you're doing this semester at Greenhills. And this is Patrick Flores-Scott signing out, and we'll see you around. Bye.
Good afternoon. Hi, I'm Scott Ellsworth, and I'm thrilled to be with you all here today. I am a part of the Greenhills community. I'm a Greenhills parent, or rather, I guess, a former Greenhills parent. My twin sons, Johnny and Will Ellsworth, graduated last year. So I've spent a lot of time on campus and know a lot of your teachers and administrators and other folks, and I may, in fact, know some of you. And I'm also a Greenhills spouse. My wife, Betsy Ellsworth, used to be the director of admissions at Greenhills. In fact, she probably admitted a number of y'all to the school, and she's currently the director of college counseling. So you may run into her on one end or another. And but I'm also a writer. I've written 4 books. My latest book, in fact, isn't out yet. It's going to come out in May. It's called The Groundbreaking: An American City and Its Search for Justice. It's a nonfiction book. I write nonfiction. Some of y'all might have seen the HBO series Watchmen, or Lovecraft Country, that's also on cable TV, which they both, include the Tulsa Race Massacre of 1921, and that's a subject that I've written a bit about. At any rate, that new book is going to come out on May 18th. So when Becky Randolph asked me to give you all some advice, I got 3 little pieces of advice and then a couple other quick things to pass on to you. And I think the first piece of advice with regard to your writing is, look, everything you're doing is good. It's all good. It doesn't matter what genre you're writing, whether you're writing poetry or fiction or short stories or fantasy or whatever it is. Look, writing is a craft. Stephen King, the great, mystery horror writer, Carrie, The Shining, The Stand, all that. He said, look, talent is a dime a dozen. And what really distinguishes people who are successful writing is that they work at it. And the way you become a better writer is to keep writing. That's how you learn to write. So, and a lot of y'all are going to end up teaching yourselves, quite frankly. You won't always be inspired to do things. Sometimes you're just going to have to sit down and pull out your, computer or your pencil and paper, whatever, and just go ahead and do it. The other thing, and King mentions this as well, is it's normal to be insecure. It's normal to write something and feel this is just crap. This is junk. Who would ever want to read this? In fact, King said that even today, and he's sold zillions of, copies of books, he says even today when he finishes a book, he has this awful sinking feeling that he just wrote, a piece of garbage and that nobody's ever going to read it. So don't worry about being insecure and feeling your stuff isn't that good. Just push on and carry on. And that's how you learn to do it. The other thing I think is really to trust yourself. Look, all of you have a unique view of the world. Nobody sees the world quite the same way that you do, and nor could they. So trust yourself, trust what you look at, trust what you're feeling, trust whatever it is you're doing. The great poet Robert Frost, when he turned 75 or 80, a newspaper reporter was dispatched from Boston to go up and interview him at his home in New Hampshire. And the reporter said, well, Mr. Frost, how does it feel to be 80 years old? And he says, I have no idea. I've always felt like I was 18. And I love that because if you're 18 or 13 or 15, that's a time in life that you're going to really feel alive in awful ways as well as good ways, going through all the traumas of growing up and all that. But your senses are going to be really attuned. And so follow those and pay attention to them. The third piece of advice is to read. Read. Read good stuff, read junky stuff, read stupid romances, and read graphic novels, read the classics, read everything, because that's how also you become a better writer. The more you read, and then the more you're going to notice, like, why did that scene, why is that so great? Or why do I like this character? Or why do I just hate this other character so much? And then you're going to start picking up tricks that writers use to be able to do that. So read as much as you can, read especially, as you go through this period in life, read coming of age books. I think those are very, very important. Right now I'm reading Charles Dickens's David Copperfield. I'd never read it before, about this young boy growing up, in Victorian England. And the book is great. I mean, it describes all the stuff that I went through, 100 years later in Oklahoma. So, read things and keep open to them. As to a piece of bad advice, this is kind of a good, bad piece of writing advice. It would be write what you know. And that's kind of right, only you can write about certain things, and you can write powerfully about, experiences that you have. But as a writer, I can't think of her name right now, said not long ago, she said, if you just write about what you know, you're only going to be able to write about one book and 10 poems. So it's okay to write about what you don't know, and to explore that and try that. Finally, and I know I'm going over time, but Rebecca asked me if there's some books that impacted me. There were tons of them. Certainly as a young man, The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn had a huge impact. There's a book I picked up in high school called Lost Horizon by James Hilton. It was a huge bestseller, wonderful book that impacted me. Also, Norman MacLean's A River Runs Through It, about life and death and fly fishing in Montana, had a great impact on me. And there's another book I want to recommend it obviously wasn't published until long after I was your age, but I have to say that John Green's The Fault in Our Stars is just a beautiful book. There's a lot of terrific books. You all are growing up in the great age of young people's literature. There's a ton of stuff for you all to read. Anyway, good luck with stuff. I'm happy to connect with you all at some point later on as well, but keep up the good work. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Hi, I'm Ruth Behar, and I'm the author of Letters from Cuba. I'm really happy to share this book with all of you. It's a story about a Jewish girl from Poland who leaves her home in 1938 to go meet up with her father, who is already in Cuba. And she leaves behind her beloved sister Malka, her mother, her grandmother, and her 3 brothers. And her father has been in Cuba for 3 years. He's not succeeded in making a lot of money to bring everybody over. And it's Esther who realizes that she's going to have to find a way to rescue the whole family before it's too late. This story is inspired by my own grandmother's story. Her name was also Esther. And she too arrived alone in Cuba, met up with her father, and was able to rescue the family on the eve of the Holocaust. I was always really inspired by my grandmother's story, and I'm so glad that I was able to tell it in this book as a series of letters. So we're inside Esther's experiences as she gets to know Cuba and keeps thinking about how she's going to rescue her family and will she ever see them again. And so the letters are full of hope that one day she and Malka, to whom the letters are addressed, will be together again and will be able to sit together under the Cuban sunshine and read these letters and hope for a better tomorrow. So it was a great gift to be able to write this book, inspired by my grandmother. I'm so happy to be able to share it with all of you and with young readers, and hope you will find the story as inspiring as I do. Thank you.